This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Canna Health.
Imagine a world where you have a clear understanding of your own genetics and you can take action by regulating your endocannabinoid system through optimal cannabis and CBD experiences. Well, guess what? You don't have to wait. The future of personalized cannabinoid therapeutics is here with EndoDNA. EndoDNA is a simple DNA test that maps your endocannabinoid system, then matches that summary to a specific cannabinoid ratio and terpene profile that aligns with your unique genotype. It's like a roadmap for the best cannabis experience that is tailored to your unique body chemistry. So it's time to take the guesswork out of which cannabis strains, terpene profiles, or flavonoid profiles are best for your body chemistry by purchasing the EndoDNA collection kit at endodna.com/products and use the promo code CONNECT15 for a 20% discount. Again, that website is endodna.com/products and the promo code is CONNECT15 for a 20% discount. The future of precision cannabinoid therapeutics is here with EndoDNA. Hello, my fellow people of the plant. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Cannabinoid Connect podcast, your favorite podcast that includes industry-facing conversations with the industry's leading experts that aim to educate and inform the public regarding the plant's endless benefits. My guest today is Emily Loss. She's the manager of influencer and social media strategy at CBDistillery. Hello, Emily.
Hey, Kevin. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming on today. I'm excited to talk with you.
Oh, yeah. It's my honor.
we had so much fun when I was on the CBD Distilleries podcast, and you were such an awesome host, and the conversation was so great. We had to do it again on Cannabinoid Connect. So
I know.
excited we made it happen.
Yeah.
So tell me, Emily, I know that your background is primarily in marketing. So tell me, a little bit about your professional career and what made you make the transition into cannabis, which is got to be one of the, if not the most challenging industry when it comes to marketing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So my background, before I worked for CBDistillery, I worked in the ad agency world for many years. Really, ever since I graduated from college, I started out in ad agencies, and it was such an awesome learning experience. Working for an agency, you get to touch all different points of marketing, PR, social media, media buying, graphic design, video, everything. So I loved it. It was an incredible way to get started in the industry. And then, I just kind of hit a point where I wanted to do something that I really believed in, and that, really that I was excited to wake up every day and do, and something that was making a difference. Which, not to say, working for an ad agency, you work with some incredible clients and some very, very inspiring people and projects, and sometimes you don't. Like, sometimes you have clients that you don't really resonate with their mission, and you don't necessarily care that much about it, but you
Right.
do,
and it's so difficult, right, to be behind something and market that product or that service when you're just not into it, right?
Yeah.
Or it's something that where cannabis, like you said, it has a really, really impactful presence, whether it be in the therapeutic, medicinal side, economic side, environmental side. So that, I totally get that for sure. And in the agency world, one day you're working on one account that's cool, the next day you're selling paper, right?
Yes, that's funny that you just said that, because I did have a client that was a paper. It was paper.
Was it Dunder Mifflin or no?
I'm not going to call them out. But
I'm joking.
But no, you hit the nail on the head. And so that's kind of where I started to just put my feelers out there and kind of see what was available, and really started toying with the idea of going in-house somewhere, really wanting to hone in on one specific mission rather than being spread so thin. And I came across CBDistillery. I've always personally been really passionate about holistic healing and alternative modes of healing and medicine and plant medicine. And so it was the perfect fit, and it all just kind of happened, and I had totally transitioned into this space. And I wasn't even necessarily a CBD user before I started working for CBDistillery. I tried it a few times. I didn't know too terribly much about it. And so, now I'm coming up on, what is it? This is my third year working at CBDistillery.
Wow.
Time flies.
And,
Um,
and while you didn't have much experience or knowledge with CBD when you first entered, did you have any experience with THC? Because I think, are you in Colorado? Is that right?
yep, in
So,
Denver.
yeah, I mean, the culture there, right? I mean, it's legal adult use state for a couple of years now. So was THC something that you consumed or were familiar with before kind of learning about CBDistillery and CBD?
hmm Yeah, I have always been really familiar with THC. Have, you know, never been a very heavy user myself. I am more of, from the consumption end, I'm more of an edible person. So I
Right.
really like to dabble in THC edibles. And for me, it's more of a just wind down at night kind of thing if I did partake. But yeah, I mean, being in Denver, very, very familiar. Have lots of friends who use it recreationally, medicinally, in many different ways. So was always really open-minded about it. And but I just, this whole CBD part, it wasn't. Back when I started working with CBDistillery, we were just really taking off, and it's hard to even, we still have startup vibes, and it's been such a crazy uh evolution over the past few years to see, where we started and now where we've come. And our founders were in the cannabis space originally, in Colorado, and they just saw this massive need for a spotlight on CBD, and no one was doing it. And there was, just a lot of price gouging going on because no one knew how much this new magical compound was worth and what they should be paying for it. And so they just saw this opportunity to bring it to the market at a really fair price and a really high quality. So that also really attracted me to the company, and just their integrity overall.
Hmm. That's
Yeah.
always like kind of sprung my interest in terms of like these legacy states. I call them legacy in the cannabis world, right? It's just like they've been around for so long. California, Colorado, adult use, but like with the emergence of now other minor cannabinoid products like CBD, CBG, CBN, like what is the consumer response in those states because they've all been so hyper focused on THC for so long? Like from what I've gathered from California, there's really not much talk of CBD, just because again that hyper focus on THC, and but in Colorado it seems like a little different. It seems like there's more openness, or there was that void that your founders kind of saw as an opportunity, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think, I mean, really just, I believe it was last year we introduced CBG and then followed by CBN. And people have been insanely receptive to it. And I really credit that to, from what we see on our channels, I really credit it to the just constant education. That's one of the pillars of what we were founded on, is educating. Because I mean, how can you empower people to start to make more natural choices without having proper education and them actually understanding what they're putting in their bodies? So I think that people were way more receptive because of just the mass push of education about CBD that we've done for so many years prior. And I would say, not only just in Colorado, all of our consumers have been just so receptive to learning more about these minor cannabinoids.
Yeah, I love that you touched on the education factor because it is so important, not only for the business to be successful, right? Because you need to have a knowledgeable consumer base that understands what they're buying, right? But also it's beneficial just to the industry overall to help us grow and move forward. Whether it's kind of from a political, legislative standpoint or a healthcare or medicinal standpoint.
Mhm.
So let's dive into that. So I, similar to you, like my career has primarily been in social media marketing. I've held a number of positions where I was the social media manager of companies, right? And we all know that there's so many different facets when it comes and components to social media marketing, or even digital marketing for that matter. My experience working at a B2B technology company, education was important because these solutions were so complex that you had to have the end consumer understand what exactly it did, but you had to put it in a way that was easily consumable for them, right? So now let's talk about an industry like cannabis, where you're the social media manager and manager of influence at CBD Distillery, excuse me. And so tell us about like navigating through all those, regulatory compliance issues and not being able to run ads sometimes, getting your page shut down. Like, how do you navigate through that?
Oh my gosh, with so much patience and so much just faith in the process. It's so frustrating. And coming from a world where, an agency world where I was running Facebook ads for all of my clients, and I never would have thought, oh, I can't do this now. And now I have to. So when I first started at CB Distillery, Facebook advertising was completely off the table. There was no way that you could advertise CBD. And so I was presented with this challenge of, getting this message out there and growing these accounts completely organically, it's really hard. Social media is so saturated in such a noisy space now. And so to not be able to put dollars behind your message and specifically target people, you have to get really creative. And it's been one of the most amazing challenges of my career. And so, going back to like regulatory things and so being really cognizant of what you can and can't say. We've always erred on the side of extreme caution when it comes to that, because we've seen so many other companies just get shut down, get their social media pages deleted. Before I was running the social media, back when CBD was just becoming a thing, we probably had our Instagram deleted 5 different times, just completely deleted.
Yeah. No
Yeah.
warning, no nothing, and then you have to start
No.
from scratch, right? Which is
Yes.
is so crazy. So when you say that you guys usually side on the air of caution, that is obviously a good strategy, but I want to dive into that. So when you say that, do you mean it's more not putting out claims, right, that talk about the therapeutic value and whatnot, or is it that in addition to like using specific words like hemp versus CBD, or like do those come into play at all?
Yeah. When so for Facebook advertising, yes, using the words hemp instead of CBD, that's definitely something. For our organic channel, it's more of, being really careful, not making any medical claims whatsoever. And that, I mean, a couple of years ago, we've been able to be a little bit more lenient with that now, but a couple of years ago, I couldn't even say this will help you with sleep. That was considered too much and could get us in trouble. And the FDA just had their eyes on these huge companies, just like, you could not mess up or you're getting a letter. And so yeah, not making medical claims, and then also being really careful about what you engage with. So we would be constantly getting tagged in these incredible stories about, from real people, about how CBD had changed their lives, and these real like medical stories that you wouldn't believe, which is why I love waking up and doing my job every day. But we couldn't share them. And so, compared to other companies where, you get this incredible piece of content or a story from a real consumer, the first thing that you do is you share that, because that is a real person and they're talking about their experience. And what better way to share, what your brand is doing? We couldn't share any of that. And it was just so frustrating, because how do you share what your product can do and how it can help people without being able to share real people's stories, and not even being able to like or comment or engage with any of them. So that was just a huge a huge challenge.
And and to your point, those are gold in
Gold.
marketing, gold
Gold.
in social media. Like
Yeah.
everybody aspires to get the customer testimonial
Yep.
that where the consumer themselves is speaking on behalf of the brand, right?
It's a
And
review, you know?
and what's amazing to me about why that would be flagged, right, on from a social media platform perspective, is that this isn't even brands we're talking about. We're talking about an actual like compound, right, which is
Mhm.
CBD. It's found in a natural plant, which is the cannabis plant. So the fact that it's a different kind of alternative therapeutic medicine, and
Mhm.
when people are speaking of its efficacy, they're
And
being
telling their own story.
yeah, they're being silenced. It's a little ridiculous. So it's but you're saying though that seems like it's getting better, because I know that I'm constantly posting video clips of my guests who are talking about the efficacy. Brian Higuera is one of them. His daughter, who was 8 months old, they gave her 15 different prescriptions, and none of them helped. He finally begged and pleaded to try CBD. They gave her a grain of rice size CBD, and she was feeling better. She was functioning differently and in a better way, than what she was taking before. So those stories are so important, to be told.
I know, and I think that, yeah, it is getting better. And I've also seen a big shift within the medical space. A lot of it's crazy. A lot of medical professionals, their patients would come to them and ask if they should try CBD, if they could try CBD, if they could use it while taking certain medications, like in tandem with those other medications, and they didn't know anything about it. And so we're over here having to educate and at the same time say, but we're not medical professionals. Always consult with your physician first. Then the physician doesn't know. So it's just this weird in between and this little dance that you kind of have to do. And something that I always tell people when they come to me on social with a specific question, which I get all the time: will this help arthritis? Will this help this? I always say, hey, we are not medical professionals, which I'm not. I don't know if every person's different, of course, and I don't know if it's going to help with your specific ailment. But I always say, hey, we're not medical professionals, but we do have over 34,000 5-star reviews on our website. Go read through them and hear how CBD's helped other people. And so, yeah, it's being really, really careful with your words. It's gotten a lot better in the sense that, we have in-house counsel who I don't know what I would do without, because I am just constantly, hey, can I say this? Can I say this? Are you comfortable with this? He's a godsend. And so, just being careful. But over the last year, I would say that our company has we've started to push a little bit and push some boundaries and push limits. And one way that we've been able to do that is putting out surveys to our customers. So we now have a list of claims that we can make if we, put a little footer that says CBD helps with inflammation after physical activity, based on a survey that we conducted with 2,000 of our customers.
When you do that survey, is there a threshold of people that you need to pull for it to be legit, or can it just be any amount of people?
So I don't conduct the surveys personally, and I'm not sure how they choose the number, but the last one that we conducted was over 2,000 different customers, and we have a really, really robust email marketing program, and we have a really engaged, our customers are really engaged with our emails. So we'll usually put a call out via email, and people want to share their story and they want to help. And especially people who are so invested now in CBD and who can't live without it, they want to do anything that they can to progress the industry and to help us be able to put this information out there.
Yeah. Well, it's a super smart tactic to implement. because again of how highly regulated the sales and marketing messaging can be without the regulation, right? So
Mhm.
let's talk about that. That's a good segue in terms of, leveraging your customer base to kind of be the voice of the brand,
Mhm.
as well as influencer strategy, right? I think your title, right, is manager of influencer and social media. So talk a little bit about how important it is to have influencers supporting your brand and speaking on behalf of the products and the efficacy.
Yeah, and it's an ever changing landscape as well, and it has changed so much over the last few years that I've done it. But I mean, it's the same thing. These are real people sharing their story and sharing their experience, and I think that having, and I want to say, I don't even want to call them influencers. I feel like influencer is almost a dirty word in 2021, because there are so many people that go and represent brands that they don't necessarily care about or use, and
So
they
true.
are getting
So
paid to do
true.
it, and you can
Yeah.
tell, like you can see right through it. You know I you can There are those kinds of influencers, and then there are actual, we call it our ambassador program, they're actual ambassadors, they're our partners, like they are. So the way that our program kind of started a few years ago was we worked with a lot of sponsored athletes, and they really tackled it from the recovery side, the sleep side. They were able to really help us normalize it in that way. But then, over the last, really over 2020, I would say we've really shifted strategy. And we actually don't work with as many big athletes anymore. We really look for um, different little pockets that CBD can fit into. And CBD is for everybody. It's not just for people with a really crazy ailment or for people that are on a professional level with sports. It's for the mom who needs to get better sleep at night. It's for the person who just started working out again and is really sore after being at the gym for the first time in a few months. It's for the person who gardens a lot in the summer and it's just, so we've shifted the strategy to work with, I guess you would say, a wider variety of people. And it's always been at the core of my mission when I'm finding these people, to make sure that they actually use and love our CBD. I don't work with anyone who doesn't. And so, it's not just one-offs. It's longer term relationships that we're looking for. And I send them CBD and they use it for a whole month before I even consider signing them to work with our company. And if they don't like it, then all right, I thank you for trying. We can't work with you because we need to share these authentic stories. And I mean, a brand can talk about the efficacy of their product all that they want, and they can educate, but who are you going to listen to? Like your peers and someone that you've followed and that you really enjoy and trust, or a brand trying to sell their product? Of course we want to sell our product. We're always going to be transparent and honest, but at the end of the day, of course you want to sell your product. So working with these people who other people can really trust even more, and who they respect and look up to, has been just a game changer for us, and it's allowed us to be able to say more without actually saying it. So these ambassadors can share their story in a raw, authentic way on their own platforms, and we are not, as worried about saying the wrong thing because we're not saying it.
Hmm. Yeah, I like the way you put it too. The way you kind of, you explain they're different. They're not influencers. They're people that were building relationships who truly believe in, the compound, the cannabinoid CBD, and the efficacy of it and what it can do to enhance people's lives. And it's not like, other influencers that you see on Instagram that are wearing shades or, doing whatever, modeling and this and that. It's an
Yes.
actual like well-being, lifestyle type product. And
Oh yeah. I
um
mean, one of the areas, Kevin, that we have been so surprised about, and I'm constantly being surprised about, like, where is this next little pocket of viral going to be? So weight loss. It's CBD and weight loss. And while CBD doesn't make you lose weight, it does support all of the other factors that go into a weight loss journey, which is managing your stress levels, getting good sleep, taking care of your joints and your recovery and your soreness. So that was kind of a parallel that we just hadn't even considered. And now we work with several different influencers who are sharing their weight loss journey. One woman through Weight Watchers, a couple other different ones. It's crazy. And in the Weight Watchers community, for example, they are such a close-knit community. They trust each other so much. They share everything, all of their tricks, tips, everything with each other. And that is something that we've just seen take off and just work so well, because they're just this insane community of people who share with each other, and it works. They influence each other, you know?
Well, and it's even going to get more exciting. I mean, obviously, well, in fact, you're in Colorado. You guys could. Have you heard of THCV?
No.
So you talk about weight loss. So THCV is a rare cannabinoid that's really hard to extract from the plant because there's just not a large abundance of it in most of these strains. So Front Range Bioscience is a company that I just recently talked with their CEO. They rolled out a line of THCV products, and THCV has been known to be an appetite suppressant. So when you talk about thinking about, okay, different ways in which these cannabinoids can help, I mean, that's what it's going to be from here on out. I feel like, I mean, I think we know that there's over 150 cannabinoids in the plant total, or not total, there's probably more, but as we, learn more about them, we're going to be able to dial it in for certain ailments and for different reasons to enhance people's lives.
It's so exciting. And I mean, I love how you also just said 150 that we know of. I mean, this plant is so cool. And it's so, even we, I work at a CBD company, and even we don't know everything that this plant can do yet. I mean, that's why we just have to remove the stigma and just dive in and utilize all of its benefits. It's been around forever. That's what's also just so exciting, is just, seeing how this is going to unfold. I don't think anyone really knows.
No, we don't. We're all just along for the ride, and there's just a lot happening at once, but it's important that we're having these conversations. And like you mentioned earlier, companies like CBDistillery are focusing on education as one of their main pillars. Because again, with education, we'll all kind of help move this thing forward, and we'll be somewhat on the same page, because it's so complex. So before we wrap up, Emily, I know that there's people listening. They're cannabis operators. They may have small to medium sized, businesses throughout the country. What's your advice in terms of differentiating their cannabis or CBD brand in such a saturated market?
Yeah. I would say, first of all, find your voice and stick to it. You know, I think find your voice, stick to it, and also just, be authentic. Share real stories, share behind the scene moments. Don't make everything perfect. I think that a lot of times in marketing, people want to just share these perfectly edited moments and these perfectly edited photos. And I think that it's really important to just humanize your brand, and share some behind the scenes mess ups, some bloopers, do some different interviews of people who work at your company, so that people can put names with faces and start to build trust with your brand. I always think, when I'm creating content for CBDistillery, I think, how would I speak to my friend? How would I be speaking to my mother, my sister? Don't, just speak like you're speaking to somebody that and like you're having a conversation. I think that a lot of it is very overthought and over edited, and the more that you can just humanize and share real stories and create real emotional connections with people, the more that people are going to resonate with your brand and actually trust, and then just always be transparent. I mean, one of my hugest strategies on social media is to always respond, no matter what the comment or the review is. Always respond, even if it's negative, and never delete. I mean, people want to see that you're a problem solver and that you are looking for solutions. Nobody's perfect, and so I think, the more that you can just respond to every single comment, make people feel seen and heard, the more that you're going to be trusted and the quicker that you're going to grow.
Mm-hmm. Very well said from a seasoned marketing professional, Emily Loss. Authenticity, transparency, and engagement, right? People want to be heard. So it's important. The only comments that I don't respond on, though, to be very transparent,
Mm-hmm.
are the spam ones. Like,
Oh,
let's collab.
no.
The
Those are the
influencer pages.
influencers you don't want to work with.
Exactly. See,
Yeah,
it comes full circle. And you know what? I think that you may need to change your title to manager of brand ambassadors and
I think
social
so
media.
too. Now that I might have to do that.
There you go. See,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, hey, Emily, where can people find y'all's website, social media, if they want to learn more about CBDistillery?
Yep. So Instagram, we are at CBDistillery _. And then website, CBDistillery.com, Facebook at the CB Distillery.
Awesome. Well, hey, it's been very insightful. I know that I got a lot out of it because I'm just like you and everybody else trying to navigate through these uncharted waters in the marketing world, but you've been very helpful. And I know that the audience got a lot out of it as well. So Emily, once there is regulation in place and we're operating like normal businesses in the marketing space, let's run it back and, cheers with champagne or do
Yes.
something. Or,
We'll deserve it.
yes, absolutely.
Yes. Well, thanks for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
Yes, thank you. The pleasure's all mine. And thank you all for listening. Bye.
Bye.